State Farm is sending $5 billion back to drivers, but California homeowners got dropped. State Farm's $5 billion refund, generous or damage control? No matter what I say, State Farm is sending refund checks after years of taking your money. Now, before you throw away that envelope from State Farm this summer, you might want to open it because it could contain a refund check. Yes, a real one. State Farm just announced it's sending back $5 billion to drivers. But here's the part nobody seems to be talking about. While drivers are getting refund checks, thousands of homeowners in California were dropped after years of loyalty. So the real question is this generosity or damage control? Watch to the end and let's start talking about it right now. So, you guys, you know something strange is happening when an insurance company sends you money, because usually it's the other way around. Usually they're sending you the bill. But right now, millions of drivers could soon open their mailbox and find a refund check from State Farm. Yes, a real check, about $100 per vehicle. And the total payout? Well, $5 billion. Now that sounds generous, but when you start looking a little closer, well, the story gets a lot more interesting because while drivers are getting refund checks, thousands of homeowners in California were recently dropped by the very same company after years of loyalty. So today we're asking the question nobody seems to be asking. Is this generosity or damage control? Let's talk about it. First, here's their headline. State Farm just announced what it calls the largest dividend in its history. $5 billion will be sent back to auto insurance customers. The company says drivers will receive an average of about $100 per insured vehicle. Some people will get more, some will get less, but checks are expected to start arriving sometimes this summer. Now, when insurance companies send money back, it's kind of like seeing a unicorn in the parking lot at a DMV. You're not sure what you're looking at, but you know it doesn't happen often. And the company says the reason this is possible is something they call strong underwriting performance. Now, that's insurance language, but translated into everyday English, it basically means this. They collected more premium money than they needed to pay claims. So, congratulations, everyone. You paid too much, and now you're getting a small portion of it back. Now, before we get too sarcastic here, let's talk about what actually happened in the industry. Last year, the auto insurance industry saw fewer accidents. Repair costs stabilized a little, and claims were slightly lower than expected. So companies that had raised premiums over the past few years suddenly found themselves sitting on stronger profits. Now, some insurance companies responded by lowering their rates a little bit. But State Farm, well, they decided to do something different. They're sending cash refunds. And on the surface, that sounds pretty nice. But here's where the story gets a little interesting. Because if you've been paying attention to the news over the past couple of years, you remember something that happened in California. Back in 2023, State Farm made a huge announcement. They stopped issuing new homeowner insurance policies in California. Not paused, not slowed down, stopped. Then thousands of homeowners started receiving non-renewal notices, meaning when their policy expired, the company would no longer insure them. Now imagine that situation for a second. You've been loyal to the same insurance company for years, maybe even decades. Your car insurance is with them. Your home insurance is with them. Your business insurance might even be with them. You've paid your premiums every single month like clockwork. And then one day you receive a letter saying your policy will not be renewed. Not because you missed payments, not because you filed too many claims, but because the company decided the risk in your state, California, was too high. Now, fast forward to today, $5 billion in refunds. So, yes, drivers are happy, but some homeowners in California might be looking at this announcement and thinking, wait a minute. Now, before we go any further, I want to ask you guys something. If you currently have State Farm auto insurance, have your premiums gone up in the last few years? Put yes or no in the comments because this is something I'm really curious about. Across the country, people have seen their auto insurance premiums increase significantly over the past few years, sometimes hundreds of dollars per year, sometimes even more. So when a company suddenly says it has $5 billion to return to customers, it makes people ask questions. Now, let's talk about pricing for a moment, because a lot of people believe State Farm is one of the most expensive auto insurers. And the truth is, it depends on the driver. For some drivers, State Farm is competitive. For others, it can be slightly higher, depending on driving history, credit score, location, and vehicle type. In some cases, drivers may pay hundreds more per year compared to other insurers, which means that $100 refund, well, it starts to look like a loyalty coupon. Now, don't get me wrong, $100 is still $100. That's gas money, that's groceries, that's a utility bill. And if millions of drivers are getting checks, well, that's a pretty big moment in the insurance industry. But it also highlights something important about how insurance companies operate. Insurance companies are businesses. They calculate risk. They price policies. They adjust rates based on claims. And when the math works out in their favor, profits go up. Sometimes they lower premiums. Sometimes they issue dividends like this one. And sometimes they exit markets that become too risky. That's exactly what happened in California. Wildfire risks increase, construction costs increased, and insurance companies began reevaluating how much risk they were willing to take on in that state. Several companies pulled back. State Farm was one of the most visible. So when people see $5 billion in refunds being announced, well, it naturally creates a conversation. Now, here's another question I want to ask you guys. If you received a $100 refund from your insurance company, would that make you more loyal to that company, or would you still shop around for a better rate? Put that in the comments too, because this is something companies watch very closely. Customer behavior matters. If millions of drivers start switching companies, the industry notices. If customers stay loyal, the industry notices that too. So when $5 billion goes back to customers, that's not just generosity, it's strategy, it's brand protection, it's customer retention, and it's a reminder that in a competitive industry, keeping customers happy matters. Now, if you do have State Farm, keep an eye on your mailbox this summer because somewhere inside that $5 billion payout, there might be a check with your name on it. And for once, the insurance industry might actually be sending something other than a bill. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone who has State Farm because there's a good chance they have no idea this refund is coming. And we'll keep watching how this story develops because in the world of insurance, there's always more to the story. For more, watch Secure 65 Health Plans every day on YouTube for the latest. I'm Monet Swan.